This is Stephanie from statisticshowto.com, and in this video I'll be showing you different types of misleading graphs. The first type of problem I'll be showing you is to do with a vertical scale. That's this scale over here, and if you take a close look, although it looks like if Bush tax cuts expire it's going to be disastrous, the facts are the scale starts at 34%, so it's only going to be a slight jump in the top tax rate, not this ballooning tax rate jump that Fox News wanted you to believe. The second type of misleading graph is where data is incorrectly plotted, and not to keep bashing Fox News, but this graph did appear on Fox News, and it was the unemployment rate and how it's risen and stayed pretty stagnant under President Obama. But if you look at this last point here, 8.6% is plotted incorrectly. If it had been plotted correctly, it would actually have shown a drop in the unemployment rate. Another problem with graphs is incomplete data. This particular graph from the CBPP analysis shows the economic downturn and legacy of Bush policies. These drive record deficits. Well, the years we're looking at from 2009 until 2019, there's no data from prior to 2009 being shown. If it had have been shown, it would have demonstrated that in 2007 the budget was just 1.2% of GDP, and that was when the housing market collapsed. So if you're going to show an economic downturn and say something like a record deficit, you really want to go back in time as far as you possibly can before you start saying record deficits. This type of graph is just completely missing an axis. There is no vertical axis here. There's nothing labeled. We have no idea what this is supposed to represent. Lanacane is apparently better than hydrocortisone at relieving itch after a minute, I think, but I'm not sure. But this was an actual ad for Lanacane, and it's just a dreadful graph. Here's an example of a graph where it's all read just completely wrong. This image was from the Mail on Sunday, a British newspaper, and the tabloid used it to claim that global warming had stopped. Unfortunately, the guy who wrote the article, his name was David Rose, he didn't understand what the graph was telling him. He made a couple of errors. First of all, the graph is showing air temperatures, and it's a very poor measure of global warming, as much of the air temperature heat ends up in the oceans. So he interpreted the graph to mean that global warming had stopped, when in fact you can't deduce that from the graph at all. And we're back to Fox News for this one. This is an example of a graph where the numbers just don't add up. A pie chart should add up to 100%. Well, if you add the figures in this chart, it's not quite 100%. I don't know what the Fox News statisticians were doing in this one, but the numbers just didn't add up. This graph, I'm not even sure I could read it. If you look at the graph, it looks like the statement is true that job and health insurance losses are accelerating, they're going up. But if you look over here, uninsured Americans, and then you look over here, unemployment rate, there's two y-axes, and it looks like if we're over here, we go in the millions of people, and this might be a percentage, but I'm already confused. So when you're making a graph, you should only put one y-axis unless you want people to be confused, or unless you want to deceive them. And finally, the winner in the misleading graphs category is, drumroll please, to Fox News for this gem. Looks like there's more people on welfare than there are who have full-time jobs. As Media Matters points out, Fox's figure for the number of people on welfare comes from a Census Bureau account of participation in means-tested programs. Anybody that lived in a household with somebody, i.e. your mum, your dad, your brother Joe, your cousin Sam, if anybody was receiving any kind of welfare benefits, then every individual in that house was counted. On the other hand, people with a full-time job, the figure Fox used included only individuals who worked, not individuals residing in a household where at least one person worked. Check out Statistics How To for more articles and videos on everything statistics.